I'm your host, Mike St. Clair with viperRIP, and today we're going to be talking digital and analog voice recorders, what to buy and why. Now, if you're looking for something for school or lectures, or maybe taking notes or something of that nature, go ahead and save yourself a headache and pick up a cheap $30 or $40 digital voice recorder. It's going to do everything you need it to do. Now, if you're looking for something for paranormal research and EVP research, well, that's a totally different ballgame. And just because we have the digital technology does not mean it's necessarily the best technology for EVP research. And I'm going to tell you why right now. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at these pieces of equipment. In our paranormal investigations, we mainly use two types of recorders, analog and digital. First, we're going to check out the analog. We're going to talk a little bit about it and hear some of the pros and cons. Now, a good thing about these recorders is they are fairly cheap. It is an older technology. They do run off of an analog tape. That's how you record your audio. They are fairly cheap, starting anywhere from 20 bucks for maybe something like this, up to, say, $50 or so for something like one of the Sony ones. The Sonys are one of the best brands. I do recommend those if you're going to get an analog one. Some of the pros, there's an EVP theory that it was one of the original theories that ghosts actually magnetically imprint their voice onto these tapes, and that's one of the theories that a lot of people do go on, and they do still use these recorders. Some of them will swear by them and only use the analog voice recorders. There's also another theory that says the noise that these make, and these do make a lot of noise, also helps out with your EVP. Another cool thing about this is you do get a hard copy. You've got a physical piece of evidence to show someone, and you can take that and store that, and as long as you keep it in good condition and good environmental conditions, these tapes do keep a long time. Another great thing about these is there's no compression, and we're going to get to that here in a minute when we talk about the digital voice recorders. Now to the cons, and there are quite a few. While the tapes may seem fairly inexpensive at $1 to $2 a piece, you only get 30 minutes. You can only record on one side of them, and these can get quite expensive if you're purchasing a lot of them, if you're using this as your sole type of recorder for your paranormal investigations. There is a short run time, 30 minutes on these. Some of the larger recorders, you can get a 45-minute tape in here, so that is a little bit longer, but very short run time. Now, these are also very, very, very noisy, so you may even want to get some type of an external microphone. Unfortunately, with this particular recorder, that's not an option, but I would recommend getting one of those if you plan on using an analog tape recorder. And there's no USB, so there's really no good way to get this to the computer in a quick fashion, but you can plug your headphone earpiece and run that to your computer, and you can record live like that. So you can get the files to your computer, just not as quick and efficient as maybe a USB recorder would do. So that's the analog voice recorder. You've got your volume switch on top, your microphone here that actually captures your recording, your play, record, and stop buttons here, and your fast forward and rewind is here. Most of these are fairly the same. They may differ a little bit, but for the most part they're the same. And then on the front here you've got a number dial that tells you how far along you are into your recording, so if you do catch something, you know how far to go back and pick up your recording. So that's the analog. Now let's take a quick look at the digital. This is a digital voice recorder. This is a great recorder. I'd say most every investigator has one of these. There are several different brands you can buy. Sony is one that I recommend. These are going to run you anywhere from 30 bucks for maybe an RCA or something like that, to upwards of 200 bucks for something like a Zoom H2 voice recorder. Those are very expensive, but in this line, you know, you really get what you pay for. Closer look at that. Now, a great thing about these is your record time. Most of these have an internal flash memory or something like that, or you can attach a memory card, and your recording time is basically unlimited. You always want to make sure to record at the highest setting, but even that, with a small 1 gig recorder, you can get a lot of information on that. You don't have any tapes to bother with, as you did with the analog voice recorder. So nothing to lug around, nothing extra to buy. What you see is what you get. You've got this, that's all you need. This does have a USB port on it, so you can easily get this to your computer. Not all digital voice recorders come with this, but this particular Sony does, and you will pay extra for this, whether it be 10 or 15 bucks on most recorders. But if you're going to get a digital, I recommend getting one that does have a USB. Now, the sound quality is going to be much better than the analog because you don't have all of that motor noise, and it's much quieter and a much better sound. You don't need an external mic, but a lot of these do have the slot to plug in an external mic, so if you want to use one, that's great, but you don't have to. Now, with the good, there is some bad, and unfortunately, there is some bad with the digital voice recorders, so I guess we're going to go ahead and get into that right now. With these recorders, there is the possibility for picking up radio frequency interference, and with that you can get false EVPs. It is possible to do that. I've never caught one, but I talked to a good friend and a trustworthy source that says he has got radio interference on these, thought it was an EVP, went back, realized it was not. So that's something you have to watch out for. Another con is you don't have a hard copy. You store it onto the device itself or onto a memory card, so you don't have that hard copy to show someone. And digital files are easy to manipulate, so you're going to get a lot of trouble from skeptics with these. But that's not to say don't use them. I definitely recommend using digital voice recorders for many, many reasons. Now, with a lot of these, there is compression, especially if you're using an MP3 format. Now, basically what I mean by compression, when you have an audio file, not all of the frequencies are needed to have a good sound. So what the recorder does is takes out those unwanted and unneeded frequencies and completely removes them from the recording. Now, in a lot of cases, I find that those particular frequencies are the ones that we catch EVP in. So you've got to watch out for that. Now, you can get recorders that record in a wave format, which is an uncompressed format. And if you've got something like that, I know the Zoom recorders record in a wave format. If you've got the money, you can pick up one of those. That they are quite expensive, 150 to 200 bucks. But again, you get what you pay for. And probably the last con, I would say, about the digital voice recorder is they can get expensive. You can get a cheap one for about 30 bucks, which is going to be alright. It's going to work for what you need it for. But if you want to spend the extra money, go ahead and get a good voice recorder. 50 to 70 bucks is what you're going to spend. It's going to be reliable. I would recommend going with the Sony because Sony is top of the line when it comes to audio and visual equipment. And that's it, guys. That's the pros and cons of the digital and the analog voice recorder. I hope this video was helpful. And that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was a lot of useful information. Now, before we close, I have a quick suggestion. If you do not already own a digital video camera or an analog video camera capable of recording audio, or at least one voice recorder, then go ahead and make your first investment a digital voice recorder, because not only do we use this for EVP recording, but we use it during our interviews. We use it throughout the entire investigation. So, I mean, it's a really important piece to have a voice recorder that you can run for an extended period of time. So if you don't already own one, go ahead and make that first investment, the digital voice recorder. I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure to comment and thumbs up if you like the video. And don't forget to subscribe for more Ghost Hunting 101 tutorials, budget ghost hunting, and everything paranormal.